Good morning. My name is Joanna Smith-Romani. I am the co-executive director of the Aspen Institute Financial Security Program. I will take a breath now because we're thin air, and that's a long title. I am a fill-in moderator today, and I only mention that not because we will not have the same amazing conversation with these folks, but because I might look at notes more than I normally do. And I just want to let you know that's why. But what a delight for me. I was going to come to this panel, and now I get to actually be in this panel. And today we're exploring two big questions. What makes a good life? Who doesn't want to know the answer to that? And what does it take to get through the different transitions? A life isn't one thing. It's a series of many things, as all of us in our different age stages have learned. And the original moderator, Jenny, had this great quote to start it out. So I thought, look, I'll just take Jenny's quote. From William James that says, "Life is in the transitions. We can't ignore these central times of life. We can't wish them or will them away. We have to accept them, name them, mark them, share them, and eventually convert them into fuel for remaking our life stories." Isn't that cool? And what a privilege to live a long enough life to have so many transitions. So we're going to get into that and talk about it today. And I also just want to let you guys know two cool things about you showing up to this panel. One is that we get to go to 60 minutes. That's pretty long at the Ideas Festival, so we get to dig in a little deeper. So you chose the right spot. There's a lot of competition for this 11 o'clock time. And second, we're going to get a sneak peek of a new documentary that isn't out yet. And some of the people on stage haven't even seen some of these clips, and you'll get to see them first, too. So we have a multimedia conversation for you all. So the details in the app will give you, like, the amazing, crazy bios of all of these four people. But I'll just say a few words about them to get us going. So first, we have Bob Waldinger. He's a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School and the director of the long-running Harvard Study of Adult Development, which has been like 87 years of study. He is a Zen priest and co-author of the New York Times bestseller, The Good Life. Dylan Tyson, on my far end, a good friend of Aspen Financial Security Program, is the president of the Retirement Strategies business at Prudential, protecting the retirement outcomes for more than 3 million people, so not a small responsibility. He also heads Prudential's Global Retirement Center of Excellence. Sally Quinn, right there, is a Washington Post contributor and author of 6 books, including a new novel out just this month called Silent Retreat. And we all know Sally and the DC insider that she is, and great to get you out in Aspen. And finally, and I have to admit, I was so excited about this person on our panel because I am a huge fan of the Alvin Ailey dance troupe. Christopher Taylor is a proud Newark, New Jersey native and a dancer at Alvin Ailey, one of the most influential dance companies in the world. So what a treat of these different perspectives we have on stage. We're actually going to start with a sneak peek of the documentary that I already mentioned. It's based on Rob's book with his co-author, and the production team put together some of the clips. So let's go ahead. Oh, and as you watch this first clip, keep an eye out for Chris and Sally. Oh, what a beautiful clip. That was so beautiful. Bob, I want to start with you. This is based off of the book you wrote, 87 years of compiled research, correct?
Yeah.
I think this whole audience, myself included, are kind of like, well, what do you learn? What should we take from that research and your own examination of it, of a life well lived? What do we have to put into it?
Sure. Should I say a little bit about what the study is?
That would be great. Just
Okay.
a few seconds on, like, why do you know this is true? Why do you believe it?
So this is the longest study of the same human beings that's ever been done. It was started in 1938. I'm the 4th director. I'm not that well preserved. And it was started with a group of Harvard College undergrads and a group of inner city kids from Boston's poorest neighborhoods.
Okay.
And then we expanded to spouses and the whole second generation. And essentially, it's been a study of what helps people thrive. Most research is about what goes wrong and how
That's
can we
right.
help, right?
Yeah.
So this was a study of human thriving before anybody was doing that. And we've published hundreds of papers, but the two big things we've learned, one won't surprise you at all, which is that if you take care of your body like you're going to need it for 100 years, it may last 100 years. And that really taking care of our health adds years and years of disability-free living.
Yeah.
So that's the part we all knew. The part we didn't know and that we didn't at first believe was that when we wanted to see, okay, what predicts who actually ends up staying healthy and being happy when they're in their 80s, we looked back to what we knew about people in their 40s and 50s. And it wasn't their middle-aged cholesterol levels or their blood pressure. Those were important, but it wasn't that. It was how connected they were to other people and how satisfied they were with those connections. The most connected people were the people who lived the longest and were freest of illness as they got old. And we didn't believe it at first because it's like, how could relationships actually get into your body and
How could they have that much influence over who you are?
right,
Yeah.
and make it less likely you'd get heart disease or type 2 diabetes.
Right.
But now many studies have found the same thing.
That's fascinating. And did you see any differences between the children who grew up or the adults who grew up with more poverty than the students at Harvard, which may also have grown up with some kind of, we don't know, but.
We did. No difference in basic happiness or life satisfaction. So privilege and money did not make you happy. But the Harvard folks lived on average 10 years longer. And we think that had a lot to do with privilege and education.
Yeah.
Because we think that the Harvard folks got the messages about eating well and not smoking and not abusing drugs. We think they got those public health messages earlier.
I see. Yeah. That's so interesting. Dylan, I want to ask you, people are living longer. There's a lot of assumptions about aging. And we saw some of them in the clip. What are some of the myths about aging and retirement that you think we should let go of? And what are some of the truths that are guiding you into your older adulthood?
Well, I think the myths that you see through the media overall is that retirement is somehow still rooted in leisure and the pictures of people on the beach and in the yacht and all of that sort of thing. When actually the truth is it's a lot closer to what you saw in the clip, that what's most deeply important to each of us, and understanding that very specifically is critically important. It's different for every person. And money plays a role, but it's not a leading role. The leading role is the future life that you want to have, your ideas about your own future self, and being able to be connected to that person. Some of the research that we have been working on, there's a session tomorrow with Hal Hirschfield on Future You. Really, the idea of that is our future self is effectively a stranger to us. The body and brain MRI imagery shows that when you think about yourself 20 years from now, you get the same patterns as you do when you're talking about a stranger, someone that you don't know well. And so retirement, in so many ways, is this broader idea that starts very early and goes through a whole life. And the conceptions of that have changed so much for everyone. And so really the idea is that we need to understand and take the time to understand what's most important to us now, what's most important to us in the future, and how are we making the right choices with that idea in mind that our future self is not a stranger to us. It's a person that we feel connected to, have empathy for, and are willing to make small sacrifices now for that person in the future around the whole life.
Right, that we can actually be doing something for our future self that is good for it in our present moment. I always joke about how current Joanna is so mean to future Joanna because she'll put off a meeting and be like, oh, I'll do it in 2 weeks, and then future Joanna is so mad at present. My old-timey Joanna at that point. But this is sort of exactly it on a more thoughtful scale, that what are we doing now for our not foreign future selves, but the people we have to live and be. Sally, you have had so many remarkable chapters, transitions in your life, a journalism career, caregiving, spiritual inquiry. What does living better longer mean for you at this point?
It means taking care of people I love. It just what Bob said was true about relationships. But I found when I was younger and I was ambitious and scratching and clawing my way to the top, I was pretty selfish and self-involved, and I was always agitated, and nothing ever went right. And then I had a son who was born with a hole in his heart, and he had open heart surgery, and he's had learning disabilities and being ill for most of his life. And he's now 43 and thriving, but I spent most of my his early life in the hospital with him. And that totally changed my life because I had to quit my job at the Washington Post to take care of Quinn, and I did for those 16 years while he was sick. And then my mother had a stroke, a massive stroke, and I had to take care of her. My father got sick, I took care of him. Quinn was already sick, and then my husband got dementia. So I took care of him until he died. And all that time, I was getting pleasure out of taking care of them, which stunned me because I didn't think that I had it in me. But what I really didn't realize was how rewarding it was and how grateful they were that I was there and how I wanted to do things to make them happy, and that made me happy.
Yeah.
And I do meditation once a week with Bob. He may not look like it, but he's a Zen Buddhist priest. We do it on Zoom, but I learned the most wonderful thing. You said the Dalai Lama has this wonderful thing about how it's good to be selfish.
Well, he said, the wise, selfish person takes care of other people.
Right. So I began to think, it's making me happy to take care of these people, so maybe I'm selfish because I'm doing it for a selfish reason. And the fact is that that's true. But so I was so excited to find that I was the wise, selfish person.
And
You're
so much
living
came
out
back.
how the Dalai Lama suggests
So
that we do.
I think that that's what propels me, what keeps
Yeah.
me going is, and I have a lot of friends, and I may be too much of a helper and fixer and all that, but people seem to like it.
Yeah, it's your purpose right now. We are going to get Chris into the conversation, but first, we're going to see a clip of him in the documentary. So let's roll the tape, as they say. That was so beautiful, Chris, and what a privilege to be able to see that video. I thinking about what I was going to ask you about, or what Jenny was originally going to ask you about. I was reminding myself of a couple years ago at the Aspen Ideas Festival, we had a whole track on beauty. And it was, for some of you who were here that year, you may remember it, but it was a really spectacular track of conversations. And one was with supermodels about what it meant in like their minds to be aging when their careers and their identity were so caught up in something that they can't sort of control, right? The physical aging of their body. And I think about this with you on the first clip. I think it's, you said, I don't know what to do as I'm getting older. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's in his mid-20s and that's not old. But your body is part of your work. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious for you, how do you think about the physical aspects of aging in this conversation about, a life well lived and the good life?
Yeah. My grandmother, she raised me. She has a lot of energy. She's vibrant, and I never thought about getting older, getting older is like a bad thing. I always thought it was like a great thing. I'm living, I could see another day. And I'm a very spiritual person, so for me to see another day, I thank God for that. I thank the universe to see another day every day. But with dance, some people career, can end around their 30s.
Okay.
And I have a lot of friends who stopped dancing. I don't, that are from Jersey. And I can feel how my body is aging, how I have certain injuries, certain things that are coming back up at 25, where at 18, I could just literally do a whole back bend from standing up or a backflip. No, I have to warm up. I have to really think about what I'm doing with my body. But I also see a blessing in that by connecting my mind to my body.
Yeah.
And my spirit connection so that I can continue my career in a healthy way. And, where I come from North, you either have a lot, not so much, and it's okay. But the one thing that I feel like I was exposed to as a kid was spirituality, house music, my elders, even though they're drinking or smoking, whatever, but I had the decision to see imperfection with perfection in different ways. People with little, happy, or or people with so much that are like so happy,
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think of aging as in a way of I'm just thankful, but I'm also being mindful of my next steps, financially, spiritually, in relationships. And, at 25, I am going through a lot of change. I am going through a lot of hardships right now. I'm a very sensitive person. I feel a lot, and I can see that after, when COVID happened, then, I started actually becoming a professional dancer around 2022. And bills and everything, I moved out, and all the things started adding up, losing friends and all the things. And I was like, oh, this is by the script. This is by the book. This is like me watching a movie and seeing the superhero. But now I understand, I have a better understanding of why things happen. That's what I'm going through my life right now.
Yeah.
It's not why, it's what can I learn from it? Because it's going to be a better day the next day. And in dance culture, it's about the next day is going to be better. If you don't have the step today, you're going to have it tomorrow, if you put your energy towards it. Yeah, that's where I stand with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just observe that as a 47, I'll be 48 this year, year-old gal, the wisdom, the sort of almost forced wisdom by the career you have and the way it relies so much on your body. I see so much in you so early in your life, and what a change, what that will bring to you over your lifetime to be thinking of these things so early on. Yeah. Bob, you're nodding. I wonder if that's something to note.
Well, yes. I mean, the quote that you read from, it was Henry James, right?
Yes, that's right.
And
William James.
William James.
Yeah.
Oops. And but about transitions.
Yeah.
Because you're going through some stuff right now, Chris. And who among us isn't going through some stuff now, right? And what we learn in following all these lives is that the transitions that come to us are highly individual. That we all face different ones. Some of them are predictable based on our age, but many of them are not predictable.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what we want to do is be more and more skillful at meeting the things that life brings to us. And the people who did the best as they went through their lives were the people who kind of danced with all the changes that came to them.
Yeah. That helps me get to sort of the next part of our conversation together, which is what should we all be doing with this? The information you're sharing, the knowledge, the experiences, the wisdom from your own transitions. What are the kind of actionable things or ways you can provoke and spark ideas in our own minds, especially given how individualized they are, right? There's sort of no guidebook to life as much as well, I don't know if we want there to be one or not, but there certainly is not. Yeah. And so, Dylan, I'm wondering with you, you said a little bit about kind of having empathy with our future selves, which I really love. Why is that a helpful idea? And can you break that down a little bit more for us in thinking about how we could all be using that towards our good life?
Yeah, thank you. This idea of thriving, of joy, of the next day is going to be better, I think they're so important as we think about the future and we think about what we want for our future self. Prudential just had its 150th anniversary, and as part of that, I got to see Chris dance, and I have to tell you, when you see that made manifest and you're able just to feel that in a way. It's something really special. I think that as we are looking at the lives that we want to live and what's possible and what's our path, being able to be connected into that in a way that's highly salient, where we take the time to reflect and break it down and to say what's most important to us. I think that's the single most important thing that we can do. And as we then are able to do that, that starts to guide us toward the future, and to know that whatever decisions that we're making today, whatever life brings for us, we can make those decisions and know that we're whole, that we've done the right thing, that we've done the best thing that we can. And from where I sit, whether it be on a personal level or a societal level, being able to understand that and really have that vision for the future, super important. In the world, in the time that we've been around, the world has changed so much, and I think sometimes we fail to reflect on it. In 1950, there were 12 working age people for every person who was elder, so defined as 65 and older. Today, that's down to 6.4, and in 2050, it's going to be 2.5 people of working age for every person that's 65 and older. That means there's going to be profound change at a societal level.
Yeah.
And so when we're understanding that the world is going to be different, that we're going to have different transitions, and we are able to go through and to say, well, what can we do as people to know what success really is, and what can we do within the organizations that we're in to make the world a better place? I just think that is the key to the ballgame.
Yeah. Did you want to react to that, Bob?
Yeah, one of the things we find when we study all these lives is that even though like the transitions are so different for each person, that one of the principles that's so clear is that the people who face toward challenges do so much better than the people who turn away from challenges.
Fascinating.
And in some ways that may sound obvious, but like think about, the people who say, oh, the climate's not changing. Or individually we say, oh, I'm just not going to get that symptom checked out at the doctor. Or, there's a lot of turning away from the things that frighten us a little bit or a lot. And I think what we found when we studied all these lives is that turning toward the things that make us nervous, seem uncertain, look like they may be hard to face, turning toward inevitably makes life go better.
That's so fascinating.
If I can, let me just give a really small story.
Yeah.
So a couple of months ago, I was at a concert with my dad. We were sitting down for the time of the concert, great event. We then were walking back to the car, and on the way to the car, he just needed to stop. And so maybe I thought I was like, well, maybe I was walking too fast. He said, oh, everything's okay, I just need a minute. I said, well, Dad, have you taken a moment to when's the last time you got your heart checked? He said, well, it's funny, it's been a while. I've got a stress test, but I'm doing fine. I was gonna, I'm gonna not go to it. I said, Dad, you can't do that. You need to go. I mean, you could kind of sense that fear. He's like, I'm fine, it's good. At any rate, he went and he just did the stress test a week ago. He failed it spectacularly. Like all of that stuff went in, then they thought they could go in for a more minor kind of a thing. And then it turns out, no, he has to go and he's going to have open heart surgery on July 7th.
Oh, wow.
The thing that I want you to know is that as he went through that, though, as he turned toward this, his mindset has just been one to say, okay, I'm here, I'm supported, I'm doing the things. And he had in his mind that if he did this now, he would be able to align that overall. And so it's exactly a point like what you're talking about, Bob.
Yeah. I'll just say that this is so consistent with the Institute. And for those of you at the opening session yesterday, both Dan and Walter talked about it's a slightly different view of or way of talking about what you're saying, Dylan, but our core values. What are the things that drive us? What do we know to be true for us? And how does that help us orient our life and our leadership? And when you say sort of looking towards the hard, we've been joking a little bit on our team that we're just like every day sort of like walking towards the fire. I work on financial security in America, and if not us, who? But we're looking towards the hard with a set of values that help us build the leadership and the legacy, the contributions we want to have in our life. Bob, I want to just quickly get in this idea of socially fit. And then Sally, I'm going to ask you a little bit about what that means in your life. But, you said that the sort of two things that matter were your health and your socialization, your networks, your friendships, the people that have meaning. And what is that concept of socially fit? How has that come out in the research? Because this feels like a doable thing for us. It's like, let's not hide away like the 4% of people that are actually engaging with people and hosting people and whatever in the US. Let's change that and make that number bigger.
Yeah. Well, social fitness was a term we coined because we realized when we looked at the people in our study that the people who were the best at this were the people who practiced it like daily and weekly. They were the people who were always making plans with people, who were calling people on the phone, when in the first generation. Now it's the people who text, who email, who just stay in touch, right? And now you're going to think, oh, this is another should. This is another thing I have to do. But the people who were best at this would just sprinkle it into their day. They would, if they had a commute, they would make it a point to text somebody or call somebody while they were on the train to work. They'd meet somebody for a walk, or they'd have somebody meet them at the gym rather than doing it by themselves. And so we found that the people who actually made it a practice like we make fitness, physical fitness a practice, were the people who did so well as they went through their lives, both meeting adversity and thriving.
Yeah, I think about the facing the challenge, knowing that you have people to support you. And Sally, you really embrace the power of the invitation. And how is what Bob's saying sort of real and true in your life?
Well, first I want to say something about what Bob said about challenges.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm an Army brat, and we moved every year and a half of our lives. And so after about a year, my father would come home from work, and I'd run up and say, Daddy, Daddy, have you got your orders yet? Because I just love the change. I love having a new life and a new outlook and meeting new people. And it seemed to me that the challenges were always the most fun thing in my life. And I keep doing that. I keep going toward challenges. Well, here I'm in Aspen. That was a big challenge, knowing the flight delay.
Oh my gosh, it is very hard to get here. That is super true.
But my husband used to say, my husband was Ben Bradley, who was the editor of the Washington Post, and he used to say, nose down, ass up, push forward.
Well, I'll stitch that for
It's
everyone's
sort of one
house.
of the mottos of my life is you just don't feel like it, or you feel scared, or you feel like it's out of your comfort zone. You just have to push yourself to do it, because it's always going to be rewarding. You're going to learn something. But as far as social life, I love entertaining. I love having people in my house. I once wrote a brief column for the Post, Washington Post, called The Sacred Table, because I think that one of the most wonderful things you can do is have your friends over, people you care about, sitting around your table with candlelight and wine and food and having a great conversation. And particularly now in Washington, it's very challenging, because everybody is just hysterical and in despair and distraught. And for me, it's creating a sense of community. Somebody, I'd mentioned in one of my books, somebody laughed and said, what was the last thing Jesus did? And I said he had a dinner party. But what he did, he brought everybody together. And so I once had somebody leave my house and say, I left your party last night feeling enhanced and ennobled. I thought that was the nicest compliment I could ever have, because I want my guests to feel happy and comfortable and in a community where they feel safe and appreciated. And so what could be better than that? And people get so intimidated by the idea of entertaining. Oh my God, I can't cook, or my china isn't good enough, or what if nobody comes? And entertaining is having your neighbor over for a cup of coffee and a donut. That's entertaining. Entertaining for me is having people in the kitchen, sitting around the kitchen. I always have a candle on the table. and eating carryout. I once had a dinner party, very fancy dinner party for a big group in Washington, and the about 6 o'clock that night, I got a call. The caterer wasn't there, and I called the caterer and I said, "Where are you?" He said, "Oh, the party's tomorrow night." I said, "Oh my God!" I had 20 people, maybe 40 people at the seated dinner, and they were all about to arrive. So I went out to Popeyes. And I got fried chicken and red beans and rice and cornbread and brought it back, and it was the most successful dinner party I ever had. God, who's your caterer? The food is incredible. But you don't need to have, it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be your fancy china and your lace tablecloths. It just has to be bringing people together so they can have fun. I always insist on people laughing.
Yeah.
And in Washington, that's not a lot of laughing going on. So
So that's a real gift you're giving us all.
Yeah, okay, 20 minutes on the politics, and then we're going to start telling jokes and laughing and making fun of each other.
Sally, let me just let Bob pop in, and then I want to go to Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to riff on what Sally said because, a lot of times people say, well, I can't call that friend because I haven't spoken to them in so long, and I don't have the hour it's going to take for us to catch up. And so we did a challenge. The Well section of the New York Times did a challenge of making the 10-minute phone call. And you say right up front, this is going to be a 10-minute call. And I know we haven't talked in ages, but I just want to touch base.
Love that.
And people started doing it. Like there were actually more than 1 million people who signed up for this challenge. And so, it's sort of like your Popeyes dinner party, It's like it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a heavy lift.
Yeah.
A 10-minute challenge, 10-minute phone call would not be a challenge for me.
Well, I have a great friend from grad school, and Earl Adams, if he's watching. And one of the things we love is we say this, we can pick up the phone after, I don't know, a year, 6 months, 3 days, it doesn't matter. No one's offended it's been a while. It's just like, what are you doing now? I don't even need the backstory. And it's such a beautiful thing because you build up this thing of I haven't reached out, I haven't. We're going to have one last clip, but I want to get Chris in first. And feel free to react to anything you've heard, Chris, but also research shows that role models, you already talked about your grandmother, role models are really important as we age and for the good life. And they're inspiration, they're a blueprint, right? They're a guide. And I'm wondering how role models have worked in your life to date and how you think that may help you in the transitions to come.
Yes. So in my career of dance, like I said before, with dance, it involves a lot of spirituality. And, as I've gotten older, I've been using divine a lot with my students that I teach as well back home. And I really feel there's something out there that has given us these gifts. Whatever gift you have, it can be anything. And, my teachers, my elders, that's how they taught me when I approach movement with my feelings and whatnot. Like I said, from Newark, it's a house music community, and house music is from, Black people not being able to go to certain churches, so they made it into gospel club music. And that's how I learned how to do my footwork, and that's a part of my technique as well, is house. And, all those things are in me, but also technically in my dancing, but also in life.
Yeah.
Which is like, wow, my career blends with who I am as a person, and I love what I'm doing, And I can literally just put on music and just improv, and anything comes out, and I'm happy, and that's because of my community, my elders, Yeah.
Do you look forward to being an elder?
I do, of course, yeah. I want to live, so I have no choice.
Well, I also mean giving, sort of showing that role modeling to do you look forward to getting older? Of course, we all want to live as long as we can, but more having that role, doing
Chris,
that
be
for
careful
the next
what
generation.
you wish for.
I would like to see, all of my hard work with my family. I want a big family because I didn't have a big family. My grandmother raised me.
Yeah.
And, it was just me and my grandmother. So I want land, I want family, I want that old school kind of dream of having a family. Because I'm being in New York, me and my friends, we're not talking about family, and we're just dating and stuff.
Yeah.
But me, I'm I want a home.
Yeah, you've got you are not foreign to your future self. You know who that person is, to
Yes.
Dylan's earlier comments. Let's show our final preview clip. Again, no one's seen these but us in this tent. This is so exciting. And then we'll get to the last part of our conversation. So Bob, that really moving clip showed that, something that could be as joyful as retirement has multiple emotions. And how do we cope? What are some ideas around coping through transition?
Well, first, one of the things that was so striking about him was that he was all smiles in the beginning of the day before his retirement party, and he thought, oh, this is just going to be a really fun time.
Yeah.
And then he was just weeping at the end, as I understand it. And it was because he hadn't understood how important he was to all these people. He'd been the doorman for decades, and they loved him, and they relied on him. And so, and the reason why I say that is that I think that it's often not until some transition happens in our life that we realize, oh my gosh, this person is so important to me, or I'm so important to these people. I didn't know that. And so I think part of it is really trying to be more aware as we go, in moment, about how connected we are to each other. And I think that's a big part of what our study has shown, that in fact, when we appreciate that, we blossom, we thrive.
How can we help other people cope through a transition or know that they are important to us? Like, what's the way to do that for others, not just prepare ourselves for it?
Being active, like, really saying so, reaching out, offering stuff, being really showing up. I mean, one of my teachers said to me when I was uncertain about whether to actually go to someone's funeral, he said, if the thought occurs to you to be there for someone, do it. Don't second guess it, just show up. And I think that would be my bottom line.
Yeah. My best friend is a geriatrician, so goes to a lot of funerals just by the nature of who her patients are. And I was like hemming and hawing about going to someone's funeral, like a friend's parent. And she was like, you just show up. Like, if you can go, it's never about that. It's just like, oh, right, I just show up. This isn't actually, to your point, if you just put Popeyes out, you just invite someone over for a donut. Like, these just should be muscles that we're building that are not that complex.
Right.
Yeah.
And to not second guess those impulses.
Yes.
Just do it.
Yeah. Dylan, when you think about having a resilient mindset about aging, what are shifts that you think we can start making and think about how we live? And I'm also curious that from like a financial planning perspective too. You have to have empathy for your future self and not be foreign from them, and you need to finance them. Right? Like I'm financing future Joanna at this moment if I'm doing it right. So what are some sort of mindset shifts and maybe even financial shifts that we should be making?
Well, the conversation that we're trying to be a part of, to evolve, is to make sure that the financial services community is more useful to people's whole self. And to do that, it really is to start with the idea of what really is important specifically, but then to help people separate out needs, wants, and wishes, ultimately, and to realize that you want to build a strong foundation around the things that you really need and the things that you really want. And to find a way to create the right sort of way to make sure that your money's working as hard for you as it possibly can. In our country, one of the largest shifts that everyone knows about, to the point where it becomes almost background noise, is the shift from traditional pensions to 401ks, more burden on individuals and the like. What I think we need to be able to do is to make sure that we are taking for this moment and bringing back the best of the kinds of positive defaults that we can so the system works for people. What do I mean by that? I mean, one of the features of our retirement system, obviously you need a strong government, social security sector, and we're very supportive of that. And then you have workplace retirement and then your individual savings. In your workplace retirement and in your individual savings, it's important that we bring back the concept of pooling, longevity pooling through here. The thing that is common practice but not common sense is looking at when you think you maybe might die on average and building a financial plan on that and then just hoping. Best practice is to look at what's the maximum that you can live? What's your maximum age? And then to insure back, at least for a portion of that, so that the benefit of pooling, the fact that some people won't make it that long, that we're able to use that in order to benefit the people who have the blessings of a long life. Being able to integrate that in and through is super important. And for us, it's making sure that that happens so that when people turn to a financial advisor, that it's starting with what's most important, and then the systems are there to do that easily.
Right.
And or when you're saving in a 401k plan and the like, that we make it a lot easier than it is now to start thinking in terms of cash flow, sustainable income, what you need in retirement. It turns out that for most people, taking a cash pile and saying, what's that going to mean for me for the rest of my life? It's not common sense.
It's not that easy to do.
It's not that easy to do.
No,
and we need to make that a far more simple.
Yeah, that's right. And I appreciate bringing in the finances of it, because part of living a good, joyful life with transitions is having, not like ultra high net worth money. I mean, we don't all need to be like a Bill Gates, but we want to be able to live comfortably and with dignity.
I have a I have a financial advisor because I can't add or subtract or multiply or divide. And my husband did all the finances. So I have these people who take care of my money. And we have a meeting every year. And last year, they have a little scale, which is green. If you're in the green zone, you're spending within your means. If you're in the yellow zone, you're in danger of overspending. If you're in the red zone, you're going to be broke in 7 years. So they explained this to me, and they said, we're a little worried that you've moved into the yellow zone. And I got nervous about that, and they said, what do you spend your money on? I mean, aside from maintenance. And I said, my extravagances are travel, entertaining, and clothes. They said, oh, no problem. I said, what do you mean no problem? They said, well, once you're 85, you won't be traveling, entertaining, or buying clothes.
That doesn't
gives me
feel
one
like
more year.
consistent. Yeah, that's not consistent with the good life that we want. Sally, as we're about to wrap up with my closing question for everyone, but it was really fun to see you doing improv. And do you just want to share just like a brief note of kind of how improv has helped you in this transition, this stage of your life?
Well, the two joys of my life are my meditation sessions with Bob every Monday night and my improv classes that I started taking a couple of years ago. And I met a friend who said her husband was in improv, and I said, I'd love to try that. So she set me up with this class, and I just loved it. I loved every minute. It was the most fun thing I've ever done. So I just started doing it. I do it every week, and then at the end of a class, we have a performance, which is, talk about challenging. I almost fainted the last time. I was so scared.
Was that the time when you were looking for a tech bro husband?
But it just brings so much. Well, in Washington, D.C., if you live there, the idea of spending 4 hours once a week laughing, solidly laughing and playing and having fun and not being judged. You can be as silly and stupid and embarrassing as you want. Everybody else is doing the same thing. And it just, but I felt people were so down this spring that I decided to have an improv party at my house. So I invited, naturally I like to have parties. So I invited about 24 people and my 2 improv teachers who were both brilliant. And everybody came together. They were met at the door by martinis and cosmopolitans because I wanted everybody to be well sauced. And then we had a buffet supper, and then we all gathered around, and they have us all, and nobody had ever done improv, so they were terrified. They were all journalists and political types, and they are not used to making fools of themselves. And so we all gathered, and they did all these warm-up exercises in a circle. They'd say, growl like a lion. Everybody go, ah! They'd look at each other like, what are we doing? And then I did 2 scenes with my 2 teachers, and then everybody else got up and did scenes. And you would be amazed at how funny they were and how really good they were. And people were screaming with laughter and jeering and booing and hissing each other, and it was just hilarious. Nobody left till about midnight. And I just never, Bob Woodward was the big star of the evening, which nobody could believe. But he has a really dry, deadpan wit. And so the next day I got all these emails saying, I've never laughed so hard in my life. I've never had such a good time at a party in Washington. And nobody ever once mentioned Trump the whole night. But it just gives you so much joy. Talk about joy.
Yeah.
It's just a joyous thing to do.
Thank you, Sally. You're making me want to try improv, though I'm deeply afraid of it, but maybe that's the reason to do it. Bob, you wanted to react, and then I'm going to ask everyone our last question to wrap us up on time.
Because there's a principle in improv that Sally knows well, which is you say yes. It's always yes and. So someone you don't know what's going to happen in the scene. Someone opens the scene saying, here we are on the moon. And then the next person doesn't say, well, we're not on the moon, we're in Greenwich Village. No, you say yes and. And I think what improv is the kind of prototype for is what we do best when we're living our lives well, which is we say yes and. We kind of meet stuff and say, okay, here this is, and now what? And we just keep dancing with it. It's not as funny as Sally or improv, but it goes well.
Everyday life doesn't have Bob Woodward doing improv in your home.
Here we are in Aspen.
Right.
Yes, and.
Yes, and that's right. All right, so my last question for you all to offer some wisdom for the crowd, for myself, because I was meant to be a listener and a learner. Could you offer one small shift, just like a thing, not another thing that we feel like, oh, you have to do this, but like a small shift, a meaningful shift that anyone could do this week to start living their better life, leading their good life? And maybe I'll end with you, Bob, and start with you, Dylan, if that's okay.
Just take a minute to appreciate what's most important to you in life, what's your life's work, and just reflect on it and sit with that for a second and think about, is there one thing that you would do to be able to accentuate that?
Thank you. Chris?
Be kind, lead with your heart, love, and be open to things. And life will give you the answers.
Oh, that's
You
beautiful.
stole my line.
Yeah.
Yes and.
Come on, that's not what improv taught us.
Yes, and be kind. And I always go by the golden rule. Do unto others as you will have others do unto you. And it really works.
And Bob, I'll ask you for your idea, and if there's any last notes of insight from the research as well to lift us all into our better lives.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say something really concrete. Think of one person who you either wish you were in touch with more, or you feel bad about not being in touch with. Think of that person, and then before you leave this tent, just send them a little text.
Oh, maybe we could actually pause.
You could do you want to do it now?
Let's do it now. We're not allowed to have our phones.
We're not allowed. Okay, don't. Okay,
You guys can.
But
We
you
can't.
can. But seriously, do this,
Right.
and you will see. You won't.
Dylan's doing it. He took his phone on stage.
Yeah, you won't hit a home run every time, but much more often than not, you're going to get something
People
good
have their
back.
phones out. All right,
So
let's
just-
everyone. I love that. Let's
just
give
do
just
it.
like 10 seconds, 10 uncomfortable, quiet seconds.
Just do
To
it.
think about who you would, and
I'm
if you're
gonna
so
do it.
inclined, I would, but I don't have my phone because I was told not to bring it on stage. Sally, who would you send your text to?
I'm just trying to think. I've been sending a lot of texts to people that
Yeah.
I haven't seen in a long time recently because I have a book out and I've been
Yeah.
reaching out to people. But I've been getting texts from people I haven't heard from in a long time. It's just been thrilling.
That's great.
You know, people saying, we haven't talked in 20 years, but I just want to reach out and say hi. And it just makes my day. It makes me feel so good.
Chris, who would you send your text to?
Actually, yesterday, before I left to come to Aspen, I talked to my mentor, and I felt so excited after. I text 10 people, and said, "How are you? How you doing?" And that I haven't talked to in so long.
Yeah.
And it was just talking to my mentor and getting guidance before I came to Aspen.
Maybe in my old boyfriend.
Singular, just one.
Well, Well, of course, they're more than that, Bob. But
All right, this is where we go into the after hours portion
Okay.
of the panel. Oh, thank you. Oh, for me to text. Dylan, who'd you text? I saw you text someone.
Yeah, I cheated a little bit. I just texted my dad. He was on my mind, so I wanted.
That's not cheating. Nothing is cheating, right, Bob? It's
No,
all the right
nothing's cheating.
answer.
It's all the right-
Bob, who would you have texted, or did you?
I did.
Yeah.
I texted my daughter-in-law's parents who are stuck in Israel. They went there for a wedding, and then all hell broke loose. So I just texted them.
I would have texted Rhett, who I don't know if he's even here. Oh, there's Rhett, to thank him for inviting me to moderate this panel, because this has been such a joyful, I moderate a lot, but talking about doing something that's a little uncomfortable, I found out at 7:30 this morning, and got to meet you all for 3 minutes ahead of time, and so this has challenged my brain and mind and been
I think we
delightful.
should give you a round of applause
Yes.
for doing a great job.
Bravo.
Thank you. But truly, let's actually give, well, thank you all. I appreciate that. But let me also thank you guys. What a just delightful, thought-provoking, and like incredibly genuine conversation to lead us out into the rest of the festival. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Dylan, Bob, Sally, and Chris. And enjoy the rest of the festival, everyone.